Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video, this time discussing the latest targets for Nottingham Forest in the January window. Now, most people were expecting Forest to not sign anyone in the January window, and if they did, I don't think they were expecting quite of the calibre that we're going to be talking about today. Now, Nottingham Forest are operating on a net zero transfer strategy, essentially saying they won't spend more than it's going to be coming in. And if they are going to spend, it will probably be more likely on loan. So that's what Forest are going to do. Now, the title of the video, who are Forest's new loan targets? Well, Forest's new loan targets are Giovani Reyna and Carlos Borges. It wasn't clickbait. That's who they are. Carlos Borges and Giovani Reyna. So one plays for Dortmund, one plays for Ajax. And this video is essentially going to explain who are those players, why are Forest going after them, and actually what impact would they have if they were to join. Now, there is some twists, and the deals aren't concluded as of the time of me recording, which is only a few hours actually before video release. So there shouldn't be any major twists, I don't think, before this video is released. But that being said, these are the two new players you can expect to see signing for Forest. Now, this video is going to be brief. It's going to be a tiny player profile on these. I've compiled some notes and done a little bit of research. And these two players are players that I've been interested in probably for the last couple of years, mainly through my love for Football Manager, funnily enough, but also because of the fact that Forest were linked with Borges last summer. But we are going to start with the one that we haven't been linked with before. And it's a little bit of a rogue suggestion. At least it would have been probably a couple of years ago, because Giovani Reyna is someone that was touted to be the next big thing. But the downfall is he's had a couple of injury problems. But we'll go through his whole profile, starting with Giovani Reyna. So he plays for the USA as his national team. He's a good player that's gone through New York City and Borussia Dortmund Academy. So he's gone through a couple of good academies there, and he's done fairly well, got a lot of pro appearances along the way. He's only 21 years old. And as I say, the only downside for him really is his injuries. And there's been some issues with the US men's national team with the head coach, but it seems like they've been resolved. So what we can tell you about Giovani Reyna, essentially 21 years of age, plays for Dortmund from the USA. He plays typically as an attacking midfielder. Now, he can play across the three positions, if you like, in the formation that we play in. Your left attacking midfield or your left wing, your centre attacking midfield, and your right wing, right attacking midfield. So there's a player there that is very versatile. He can drop a little bit deeper into the midfield, but typically he's played more in those three positions. He's played more in the last 50 games as a right winger. He's played 21 out of 50 games as a right winger, 10 out of 50 as a left attacking midfielder or a left winger, and 10 times as a centre attacking midfielder, basically behind the striker, similar to where Morgan Gibbs-White would play. And obviously Morgan Gibbs-White at this time, in the time when I'm making this video, struggling with abdominal problems, and Anthony Elanga also out with a thigh injury. So right wing and central attacking midfield are two areas where Giovani Reyna actually can cover. So depth-wise, that's a really, really good bit of recruitment. And it's somewhere that he enjoys playing. He enjoys getting forward. He's been known to play as a right forward or a left forward also, so up top essentially. But that being said, his strengths definitely aren't as the kind of front man for your football team. But I can imagine that wouldn't be a consideration anyway, given Forest have got someone like Chris Wood, who's got 9 goals across the campaign, across all competitions, or someone, like Taiwo Awoniyi, who's probably 3 weeks away from being close to coming back to football. So Taiwo Awoniyi expected to be back in April. He should be back probably about mid-February, I would have thought, which is always really nice to see. He's making really good progress, and Nuno says the same. So really good progress from him. He's coming back. And then you've got someone like Giovani Reyna, who's a bit of a playmaker, who would really complement them when someone like Morgan Gibbs-White or even Anthony Elanga isn't present. So, yeah, as I said, another player touted to be the next big thing, struggled with injuries a little bit, but versatile across those three positions, left wing, cam, and your right wing. So that's always a good part of it. He's got a lot of pro appearances, 113, 24 of those are international caps as well. So 89, I think it'd be, 89 professional appearances for Dortmund, which is really, really good. He's missed 19 games, though, last season through injury, which is 145 days, essentially half a year. Near on, or near a third of a year through injury, mainly muscular related. So he's a little bit prone to those problems. But that being said, if Forest are going to sign him as a depth option on loan, there is an option to buy, according to David Ornstein. But if they are going to sign him on a loan, I don't think really you can be too concerned, because these kind of issues spring up typically when he's played a lot of games first team. But I can't see him being a first team player if Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi are both fit. But that being said, it depends on Nuno's outlook on that. Now, Reyna, stats-wise, he's been known he's in the top 5+ percentile for many different reasons, whether it be progressive carries, successful take-ons, touches in the penalty area, and shot-creating actions. So he's decent in the air. He's got good aerial as well. So lots to his armoury, I think. In terms of goals and assists, he can get them. He's not been particularly fantastic. He's got no goals or assists this season. Last season, a couple. But this is Reyna is more of a playmaker who's very good in terms of the counter-attack. Now, this is where Borges, who we'll get onto next, is also very strong in the counter-attack, which is why this recruitment does make sense. And it made sense under Cooper with Borges, because Cooper typically around the end of last season liked to play that counter-attack. So it would make sense to have players that specialise in that and drop a little bit deeper and then go forward with the ball, which is something that Giovani Reyna does do. And he's not as good defensively, even though you shouldn't really have to think about that too much with an attacking midfielder, as Borges, because Borges does drop deeper and put in more tackles. But that being said, Reyna, he does have a lot to offer, and he does get past play as well. And that's what you really want in this football team, because I think that against Brentford, Forest were a bit one-sided. Callum Hudson-Odoi, he lacks confidence, he lacks that bravery at the moment, but I think that's something that comes in time with him, whereas Reyna is someone that offers that straight away. And you need someone who's just going to be a little bit brave and just take on a man. And that's what hopefully he will offer to Forest should he join on loan. So a really, really good set of attributes that I think Forest need. Again, in depth, Forest don't really have that. We've seen Nico Williams kind of play a bit further up, but it really doesn't suit him quite as well as I think he does as a wing back, or maybe even a fullback, but I'd say more of a wing back. Because I think Nico Williams is in a strange position where he's not an out-and-out defender, but he's not an all-out attacker. He really suits that wing-back role quite well, which is why I was, maybe a little bit surprised that Forest weren't looking to loan him out, even though I wouldn't necessarily consider it, weren't looking to loan him out to maybe a Dutch club or somewhere that plays more with wing-backs, to further his development. But that be because he's still young. And Forest, will still want a lot from him. But that being said, he's been on a good run before Nuno came, and then he's kind of lacked game time. So, but by no means am I suggesting sell or loan Nico Williams. I really like him, but I was kind of surprised that we didn't consider it a little bit more, perhaps, after Feyenoord's offer of a loan recently. So, but back to Reyna, though, he's struggled for game time a lot this season at Dortmund. I think only the 10 appearances. And so he's taken on a new agent in due course. Jorge Mendes, who, of course, sanctioned the deal for Forest to get Rio Ave, which is a Portuguese Premier League club, of which Marinakis now owns, Evangelos Marinakis and co. They now own it and have put a lot of funds into it and are planning to put over £20 million over in the next few years into the club. So Jorge Mendes sanctioned that. He was part of that. He was part of the deal to get Alves to Olympiacos as a new sporting director. So it's more influence from Jorge Mendes essentially in the last few months. So Alves has done good as Olympiacos sporting director, obviously, and then brought in a new manager in due course as well. So the Jorge Mendes influence is massive. And Giovani Reyna now being represented by Jorge Mendes does give Forest that upper hand in negotiations. And it also means that Jorge Mendes, of course, can recommend his client to Forest. So there's mutual benefit to it. Essentially. So, and obviously Jorge Mendes represents Nuno Espirito Santo, who is the head coach of Forest. In fact, Nuno was his first client ever after meeting him in a nightclub in Porto. A bit of a fact for you there. So, Mendes effect, lots of good attributes, bit of an interesting injury record, but as a depth signing, I think it's okay. I'm not too concerned with that. But as I say, I think it really does add depth because he does have that versatility, typically on the right, but he does have the left and central areas covered as well, which is really, really pleasing. So Giovani Reyna, should he sign from Dortmund on loan, gets the thumbs up from me. Not that it really means anything to anyone, but I would say from my research on him, And as someone that has kind of taken a keen interest based on Football Manager and other games, I've kind of learnt to kind of look into players a little bit more through that. And Giovani Reyna is someone that I've had interest in, and I'm really shocked that Forest have made an offer. But that being said, Olympique Marseille have also made an offer and are in advanced stages to sign him. So, of course, there's no guarantees with this. At the moment, Forest are just waiting to see more about wages and how much Dortmund are willing to cover. And I think they'll probably be pushing for Dortmund to cover a considerable amount, given the FFP situation at Forest, which is ongoing. And they're trying to prove that they're being more sensible with money. So they won't want to be spending a lot of money on a 21-year-old that isn't theirs, essentially. But that being said, there's nothing to say that Marseille are going to get him 100%, and there's nothing to say that Forest are going to get him 100%. More reliable sources have said that Forest are in advanced stages, and less reliable sources have said that Marseille are in advanced stages. So it's just a kind of case of waiting, I think, at the moment. But overall, Reyna gets my seal of approval, if you like. That means nothing. But a very good player. And again, versatility, value for money, I think, will be very important. And I think that given his age, but already experienced, that'll be really good. Carlos Borges, on the other hand, he's been at Ajax. He's had an okay season, but Ajax as a whole have been pretty underwhelming, really. They've been kind of in the lower half of the table for the most part, but they're now back in the top end again, but still nowhere near the likes of PSV and Feyenoord, who are doing really well for the most part of the season. So he's from Portugal, again, Jorge Mendes, Portugal. He plays typically on the right or left wing. So again, you've got that versatility with him. He was a youth career at Man City. Many accolades he collected as part of his campaigns in the Premier League 2, which is essentially the youth version of the Premier League. And he was known for his work in the Premier League 2. And that's where he kind of got his name with Premier League clubs, because there's so many players that play for Premier League sides at the youth level that just simply don't make it to a Premier League club. But Borges moved straight away to Ajax, even with offers from the table from West Ham and Forest. So massive move for him at such a young age. And it shows A, a lot of maturity, and B, it kind of shows just the kind of level of player that we're talking about here. So a very good player in Carlos Borges, 16 professional appearances overall, all of them at Ajax. No international caps as of yet, but he has played for the under-21s and below as well in his career. So he became a professional footballer this season, and signed for around £14 million from Manchester City, with Man City having a buyback clause, as they do with most of their youth prospects. And Forest and West Ham both pursued him last summer, but he did indeed choose to go to Ajax, and the deal was better for Ajax and Manchester City. So excelled, again, under-23s at Man City, winning the Premier League 2 accolades along the way. But he's not necessarily... I think that collectively Ajax's poor performances haven't really helped his growth. Ajax has been known for a team that has always excelled in youth development, particularly in the last few years. The amount of money that they've made from selling players like Anthony, Matthias de Ligt, Donny van de Beek, Andre Onana, just so many players that have gone through their academies and just recruitment system overall, whether they started there or not, that have gone on to do really well, or they've sold for a lot of money. So smart business from Ajax usually. Borges has got 4 goal contributions this season, 3 goals and an assist. So he's not done that bad. But that being said, whether it's a case of whether it's the collective issue or whether Borges isn't necessarily performing as well, I don't know. But it's his first professional move. It's a big club that's playing in European competitions, a club that is expected to be winning, if not in the very top 2, top 3 kind of area of the Eredivisie every season. So there's a lot of pressure on a young man like him, just 19, 20 years old. So it's a big step for him. But considering 4 goal contributions in 16 games isn't a real bad return in all competitions, to be honest with you. And again, if he was to join Forest on loan, which is what people are saying, with no buy clause, to me it would seem that Carlos Borges is going to be used for depth. It's interesting to see that Ajax would let him leave on loan, given the standard of the Premier League compared to the Eredivisie. With all due respect, it's a very different level. But I suppose if they don't feel they need him at the moment and they think he can further his develop somewhere else, like Forest, who are in the lower end of said division, in fairness, then it's a win-win overall, isn't it, really? And I think that Borges would be someone that is there to add depth. And I can't really see him starting week in, week out, unless, as I say, there's players injured. So he offers a lot of versatility. He offers speed. He offers the acumen on counter-attacks, because this is, again, as I mentioned earlier, where Borges specialises in counter-attacks. You only have to watch a few of the Premier League 2 games that he played with Manchester City last year just to see how good he really is. I mean, Man City lose the ball, shot comes from the opposition team at the goalkeeper, rolling it out. Borges is already on the run, making it forward, and then he's scoring or he's assisting. So he's an intelligent footballer. He reads the game well. And again, in the counter-attack, he does get stuck in. He's got a good level of strength on him as well, which is really important for a winger. You've seen Anthony Elanga, when he was at Manchester United, not particularly that strong, but then when he's come to Forest, he's really, put a few pounds on, and he's got a lot bigger whilst not also losing much of his pace, which is really important. And Borges is fast, offers that strength, reads the game well, and just tries to get on the counter-attack, which is something that Forest is strong at. Good on the counter-attack, lots of counter-attacking goals. I think one of the best in Europe, actually. I think in the top 5 leagues in recent games for counter-attacking goals. But the problem is they're leaking goals in the defence. So maybe that's an area that Forest may choose to look at as well later in the window, if they can, money-wise. So Borges, for me, makes sense. He offers a lot. I think tactically he suits what Nuno plays. It would make sense for him to join Forest on a loan basis. The financials work pretty sound. So I'm all for it. I think that it is a good deal. I don't think he'll start again. But then again, I don't know what Forest's plans are for him should he join. But I think that overall it would be a good move. It adds a lot of depth, adds quality and depth, more importantly, and versatility. So Carlos Borges, I'm really all for it. But it was not something I expected to see him and Giovani Reyna linked as well, especially having Carlos Borges only moved in the summer to Ajax. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. But 2 good targets for Nottingham Forest. Will they loan them in? We'll find out in the coming time. That's a player profile on both of those players. Let me know what your thoughts are as well. I know that a lot of you were letting me know your thoughts on Orel Mangala potentially leaving the club. I know you were very vocal in your opinion. So I appreciate always the comments and the feedback as well on the videos. It really does mean a lot. And if I ever don't reply and say thank you, I really am appreciative. It's a busy time at the moment. I'm doing a lot, and then I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks. So it's a little bit hectic. But more videos will be coming. We'll be doing more regular uploads, and player profiles like this is something I'd love to do more of. Definitely going to be improving the output of video content, and I'm working on a few softwares now to kind of get to learn them before I do. But that being said, Giovani Reyna, Carlos Borges, if we can get them both, fantastic. They will offer a lot to Nottingham Forest. But that being said, if you could only take one of them, either of them I'd be very happy with. So I think good recruitment from Forest, and Forest are definitely up in their game. But that being said, as much as I do think we needed a winger or 2, I think a goalkeeper for me really is the priority at the moment. So if we can get a goalkeeper in, providing that's what Forest are looking at, as well as the wingers, then that'll be fantastic. So good recruitment from Forest, financially responsible recruitment from Forest, and you can tell they're taking a bit of caution towards it with the discussions. And that being said, they've marked up 2 really good players there, so they've done the due diligence, which you'd expect anyway. But definitely a good sign at the moment. So that's the latest of the Forest news. We'll be back very soon, doing some hopefully more talks on these 2 players if they sign for Forest, which would be fantastic. So hopefully see you very soon talking about these 2 young individuals who will, again, hopefully be in a Garibaldi red shirt soon. But for now, Giovani Reyna, Carlos Borges, it's a thumbs up from me, and fingers crossed we'll see them in a red shirt very soon. So thank you for listening. That's the latest. Let me know what you thought about this video, and I'll see you all soon. Come on, you Reds.